Joey, thanks for coming in, spending some time with us. A couple things crossed my mind, and we'll get your thoughts on those, and then we'll open up the floor. But you won the Daytona 500, okay? You're coming here to the Brickyard 400. Certainly a race that is considered by many folks as one of the crown jewels in the NASCAR schedule. Your thoughts about being able to add that to your resume, and then also your thoughts about how important this track and the history here is to your team owner, Roger Penske.
Yeah, I think I was going to go in that direction anyway. Actually, it's anytime we hear Indy coming up, we start getting the calls from Roger. We start we really want to win this race. This is the one on his bucket list that he ain't gotten yet, and we talk about it a lot. And it'd be very special to give him a Brickyard 400 along with the Indy 500 that he won earlier this year up here, along with the Daytona 500 we won earlier too. So this could be quite the trifecta if we can make it happen. But we got a lot more practice the rest of the day today to try to tune in our Shell Penzo Ford. We need a little bit of work right now. First few laps of this package is a lot of unknowns, so it's trying to just get a feel for where we're at, what we need to make speed, try to understand what's going to happen when we get behind cars. I think that's still an unknown, and we're just trying to get our car to be pretty decent to take off by itself and try to get some speed out of it that way, and then we can work on traffic and what's going to happen after that. But we want to win here really bad. This is such a special race to come up to. Anytime you get to race at Indy, it's a privilege to come up here and you get to drive a race car around this place. So can only imagine what that feeling could be like if you're out there kissing the bricks on Sunday.
Thank you, Joey. We'll take some questions. If you have one, raise your hand. This gentleman right here had his hand up first. State your name, your affiliation, and we'll go from there. Go ahead.
Jonathan Merriman, NASCAR.com. Joey, I know you weren't here for the tire test earlier in the year, but Brad was and Ryan was. Did what they learned from that test, do you throw those notes out the window here with the new drag package? And from your experience in the car, how much is it different from last year?
I wouldn't ever say you throw notes out the window. A lot of times you come back to them. But there's a lot different. You look at the bumper extension, you look at the spoiler. Obviously, those are the two that stand out visually the most. But there's so many changes when you change the amount of time you're on the throttle. All that just changes the setup so much of what works. I still think a fast race car is a fast race car, and there's some things that definitely still transfer over. And you look at front end settings and stuff like that. If you tested that at the test, I think a lot of that transfers over. But there is still quite a bit of difference, though. I think when you look at where your wedge, your track bar, or nose weight, all those three things for sure, maybe rear spring, stuff like that, those change probably the most when you have a package that's so different than what they tested here or what we ran last year even. And those, just trying to find the balance of those three is a challenge enough, but obviously there's a lot more to that package than just that.
Take this young man right here. I can't remember your name, but I know you're here every year. Right here. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dick Midman, 500
Yes.
old time. How different is driving in Daytona compared to driving here?
A lot different. Daytona, we got we're wide open all the way around. We got restrictor plates on the cars. It's a completely different package than what we are here. Obviously you would think kind of we're trying to add drafting with this high drag package, but we're still making quite a bit more horsepower than we do at Daytona. We got to lift quite a bit more than we do at Daytona or Talladega, one of those type of racetracks. So it'll be interesting to see how the race plays out for that reason. We'll see. But it's so different. You can't really compare the two. Just so many different pieces on the car.
Raise your hand. Who has the next question? Let's go back here to my man Jerry, and then we'll go to Stan, and then Claire.
Jerry Jordan kicking the tires. Joey, on the track during practice, some of the drivers were talking about the spoiler not being able to see out the back with the wicker. What have you noticed with the new package with that?
It's challenging to see. You have a small gap where the spoiler is clear, and you can see out of that, and then obviously the wicker's on top of that, so it's kind of hard. You only get a certain amount. I think I can see about 5 car lengths behind me, and then any cars that are further back than that, I can't see, which isn't the end of the world. You know, if you're 5 car lengths back, you're probably not too worried about it anyway. When you get closer is when you want to see it. But it is nice sometimes, because sometimes, well, we don't know. I mean, we'll see with this whole drafting package on the straightaway when that run's going to start. If it's starting from 8 or 9 car lengths back and you're getting these huge runs off the corner, if someone's side by side or something like that, the run from 9 car lengths back is going to happen. It's going to be large. It's going to be kind of challenged to see them that way, but as they get closer, you'll be able to see it. So I think, you know, we all have pretty good spotters. I think I know my spotter is really good, and you know, I feel like we'll be able to, you know, communicate and where the runs are coming from, and then as they get closer, I should be able to see it in the mirror. And because you're going to have to block, you're going to have to make some big moves, especially on these restarts when cars are side by side off the corners.
Let's go to Stan, and then we'll go to Claire.
Joey, Stan Creekmore with RPMtonight.com. Single car run is important because of qualifying, but the race is the most important. How soon before you guys actually hook up 2, 3 cars to see what the results of these changes are going to be?
I think there's been some, you know, some guys have kind of gotten close to each other. I don't know if they say hooked up, but I know some guys have gotten close to each other. I drafted a car down the back straightaway as he was pulling in just to get closer. And, you know, the amount of speed you gain as you get closer and closer to that car in front of you. And then I pulled out because he was pulling in. So I pulled out back into the air and it was like putting the brakes on. It's like, whoa. So the draft is huge. What that does in the corners is going to be a different ballgame. Obviously, the hole in the air is larger, so driving the cars through the corners is going to be more challenging. But the drag down the straightaway, will that overcome what the challenge is in the corner? We'll just have to wait and see. You know, I think that's going to be an interesting part of the race, and I don't think we'll ever see that in practice. You know, you'll have a general idea, but there's not going to be that many cars that wad up in practice and try to go out there together and do all that. We're not in Daytona. You know, we're not going to have drafting practice. I don't see that happening. I see maybe 3 or 4 cars maybe trying it later on this afternoon, but I don't see a whole pack going out there and playing around and doing like that like we do at super speedways.
Let's go to Claire, and then we'll go to Woody Kane. Claire?
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. That was somewhat what I was going to ask, but I heard on the radio today someone comes up to a car and they're just moving aside, not close to race conditions. You know, you don't see like in the drafting practice. Do you think it'll get racier later this afternoon? People will try harder maybe to try to replicate part of it, or, you know, not pull aside so quickly?
I think some guys might just try to get a feel and see what happens, but right now, if you want to make adjustments to your car on back-to-back, you know, changes and make sure you know what the change did, you got to have a consistent, you know, piece of air basically in front of you. If you start getting cars in front of you, your car's going to handle different, so then you're not going to know what your car did from one run to the other, because it depends on how far back you are or whatever. So everyone's looking for clean air right now so they can see what the changes do to their car so they can make the best decisions and the best adjustments going into Saturday qualifying and Sunday, obviously for the race. So we're all just looking for consistent runs from run to run to make sure that we know what our changes are doing right now.
Let's go to Woody Kane, back in the back in the blue. And then Jared, did you have a question? Okay.
Woody Kane with MRN. Look ahead for us, if you will, to Pocono next week. A top 5 for you there last time. You had the big bump issue. Now, reportedly, that's been taken care of. What are you looking forward to going there this time?
I'm looking forward to the bump's not there because that was our worst corner. So if the bump's gone, I thought we were actually really good. I thought we were one of the best cars in 1 and 3, and maybe I felt like a 20th car in turn 2. So I think that's a good thing to get it all smoothed out. I mean, it is a jump. I mean, it's crazy that we. You know, obviously you look at pictures when we went through the corners and stuff, and there's pictures that both front tires are off the ground, like literally off the ground, and so that's not okay. So I think yeah, I'm glad they fixed it. I think it'll help us, and you know, I look forward to going to Pocono. It's always been a good racetrack for me in the last few years, so I look forward to going back.
Go to Jared, and then Brant, and then Jay.
Yeah, Jared Turner, FoxSports.com. A couple quick things. Chevy's pretty much crushed the competition here for a number of years. What are your thoughts about that? And secondly, Jeff Gordon is going to become NASCAR's new Ironman for most consecutive starts at New Hampshire in September. As a fairly young guy, What are your thoughts about that?
I got a long ways to go. I mean, that's pretty cool. So that'd be most consecutive starts at Loudon. That's kind of cool. It's I remember watching him when I was 6 years old at Loudon, watching my first Cup race there, and he won. And you know, it's amazing. He's been racing forever. You know, and obviously for a 6-year-old kid, and he's still racing out. That's forever to me, at least. So it's pretty cool to be out there racing against one of the best, and that's a cool milestone. Didn't know that was coming, so pretty neat. I'm sure he's got plenty of records as it is, but I'm sure it's cool to add another record anytime you can.
As far as Chevy's dominance,
Oh, I forgot that question. I didn't want to talk about that. I want to talk about Ford's dominating here this weekend. That's what I want to do. Obviously, they've been fast here. They got great teams. You know, they have teams that have great drivers on them. You know, and you know, obviously this has been a racetrack that their package lines up for them. They make good horsepower. It's a horsepower racetrack. We're on the gas a lot. And this week isn't going to be any different. It's going to actually be more. You know, on the gas even more than we ever been here on this racetrack. So, you know, I don't see it changing this week. That they won't be a threat. Obviously, they're going to be a threat. They are every week. But you know, I think we'll be in the hunt. I think we'll have a good shot to race against these guys. And you know, we just got to keep working on our car right now. We're off a little bit right now. We need to get our car handling better. Which I feel confident Todd will fix it up for me, and we'll have something by Sunday comes around. But they're going to be tough like they always are. I mean, like I said, when you have teams that are that good and you have drivers that are that good, they're always going to be a threat.
Front row here to Brant, and then we'll go back to Jay.
Brant James, USA Today Sports. You alluded to it earlier about obviously how much winning here means to Roger, but if you could just elaborate on the various ways maybe he sort of lets that, you know, be known to the shop and to you guys. And does he dangle any sort of incentive out there for giving him that win other than the thought of making him very happy?
I don't think you really need any more incentive besides giving Roger Penske another win at Indy. You know, you want to add your name to the list of guys that have won here for him. You know, every time I walk in the shop, you know, the first thing you see is all these Indy 500 trophies and the helmets that they wore when they won that race in the picture, and it's really cool. And, you know, obviously, you know, different type of car, but it'd be really cool to give him his first win, you know, in a Sprint Cup Series at this racetrack. How neat is that? And I don't really need extra incentive for that. That's incentive enough for me to go out there and want to make this happen. And that trickles down throughout the whole company. We all want to come up here and give our you know, our best effort and try to execute the race the best we know how to, and build the fastest cars we know how to before we get here. But you know, we do that every week. You know, we do that for every single racetrack. But you know, there's just a little bit added for this one. It's like going down to Daytona. You really want to win the Daytona 500 because it's one of the biggest races of the year. You know, this is the same story, but it's even a little bit more special for, I think, Team Penske than it is for even everyone else.
Is there a point in the calendar though where he starts saying, "Brickyard's coming"? I mean, does he start texting you more, talking?
You know, he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. We feel it without him saying it. Believe me. And we talk about it. And obviously, when this rule package came out, you know, he didn't have to come to us and say, "Hey, we're gonna have to develop this thing as quick as we can." We were already doing that. We know how important it is to him and how bad he wants to win this thing. So not a surprise to us that you know, that he wants to do it. And I don't feel like he's not pressuring down on us more, but he doesn't really have to. He's made it known over the last few years how bad he wants to win this race, and that hasn't changed.
Let's go back to Jay, and then we'll go from there, see who else we have. Go ahead, Jay.
Jay Penwell, Fox Sports. My question was similar to Brant's, but you won the Daytona 500 early in the year. What would it mean to come here and celebrate in Victory Lane, win the Brickyard 400, and have those two accomplishments in the same season?
That's something you talk about forever, right? I think who was the last guy to be able to do that? Wasn't it Jamie?
Jamie McMurray.
Yeah, Jamie. He won the Coke 600 too, right? That year, I think he won all three.
He may have.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
American Pharaoh.
Yeah, that was an amazing year. I remember watching that. And I was racing against him then, and it was spectacular to do that. We missed the Coca-Cola 600, but we got a shot this weekend, you know, and I look at, Indy and Daytona as the two biggest races of the year as far as just the prestige and the history behind the races. Obviously, now we put Homestead in that, hopefully, is the most important race, hopefully. But for everybody, Indy is just a special place to come to. And every time you drive in this place, you're like, wow, this is cool. This is Indy. You walk, this morning I was walking from the trailer to the garage, and you walk under and you see the racetrack and all that, and you see Gasoline Alley, and it's like, that's pretty cool. It's kind of badass that we're even here. I still get the chills that it's neat, and it's fun to be here. So winning, obviously, would be special, very special. And if we're able to do the 500 and the Brickyard 400 the same year, it'd be really cool.
He's got two more. It looks like actually three more. Dustin and the young man next to him, and then we'll finish with Woody.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Joey, I understand that this track has always been challenging, always will be challenging regardless. With this package, is it changed the challenge? I mean, there's still a difficulty with this place. Does it compound? Did you have to do more going into this weekend, or was it just it's Indy, it's always going to be a tough weekend type of approach?
It's Indy. And really, right now we haven't seen anything different because we're not out here in a pack and seeing what's going on out there. But it's Indy. It's always a tough place. It's always one of those places that strategy is going to come into play. That always happens here. I think no matter what package you put on it, strategy and the way you play out this race will always be interesting because it plays out like Pocono does. You can pit and not go down a lap. So that's always jumbles it up. Seeing here in the past the 2 tires, no tires. We've seen that jumble up the field a lot. Last year there was a competition caution that really jumbled up the field. So there's just so many things that just kind of mixes everything up as far as the strategy of the race that makes this very challenging. As a driver, it's all about restarts. You gotta be on your game, and you gotta make sure your car is good for that. And this year obviously we'll have track bar adjusters and all that, so it kind of what we can do to adjust our cars to make ourselves better for restarts compared to where we are in long runs and all that. That's going to come into play a lot, and what we're in dirty air to clean air and all that. So that adjustment would be pretty big to make sure you're up on that.
How does the gearing affect it? I know they're still trying to figure out the gearing. How does that impact things looking ahead to the restarts and on Sunday?
I think all of us always want more gear. As a race car driver, you want more gear because that just gives you more power, more, get up and go off the corners. So we're always like, more gear, more gear. Engine guys may be the opposite because that's just winding their stuff up tighter and putting things more on the edge. So, I think there's a sweet spot that all of us know we want to get to. So it sounds like we'll make some changes here and just try to, hone in on that. But I think gear is a good thing. I think gear adds better racing. The more throttle response you get off the corners, the more you have a chance of passing somebody or someone making a mistake in front of you or something like that, which just promotes passing. So I think we always push that direction.
Go ahead, young man.
Zach Worrell, Butler University. Joey, Greg said during practice that they noticed like a 1 second fall off. Were you guys expecting any kind of fall off coming into this weekend? And how do you think that what kind of effects do you think that'll have come Sunday?
Maybe fall off because, when straightaways are this long, you lose maybe a tenth off the corner. Well, it's compounded to 2 or 3 tenths by the time you get to the end of the other straightaway. So, you can, it's one of those places you can say, oh, I can find a half second pretty quick. It's there's 4 turns here. There's actually 4 turns. I know we just say there's 4 turns at all these other places. I don't know why we do that, but there's actually 4 turns here. And, that's, there's more areas to gain or lose time, really. I think when you look at it and you say you're a half second off or, something like that, it's not as far off as it typically is because you can make a little change and have more areas to gain on that. So,
final question, Woody.
When you were talking earlier about the Gordon Ironman thing and said you got a long way to go, it made me think of something earlier. I think we kind of tend to forget how long you actually have been here since you started so young. But who was the person that early on really propelled you on this path that you're at now, at this level that you're at, and helped you get to where you are, and how did they do that?
Well, there's a lot of people, that helped me along throughout different stages of my career. you know, and I always remember when I first started racing Cup and I was getting my butt kicked consistently. You know, I had Mike McLaughlin with me that helped me kind of get along. You know, help me know what I need as a driver, try to figure out that stuff. We'd watch races together and watch and try to critique what other people are doing, and then try to, you know, put that into my style and trying different things and looking at different lines. And he was kind of like, you know, we went everywhere together. We just did it all and just kind of helped me communicate to my crew chief, and it was all kind of a, you know, it's kind of a partnership there, which helped me a lot. In the beginning part of my career, but there's been so many people, you know, that have helped me. You know, when that's what you need. I mean, I've been taught just to take everything in and take in all the data I can get, and then make, you know, what I feel is the best decision from there. Which is, you know, obviously it's hard, but if it was easy, everyone would do this. But I think as far as you know, just being able to watch and study and be a student of the film or of the sport. And trying to learn from other people's mistakes, it can help you kind of move along. And I had a few people that helped me do that.
Joey, thank you so much for coming in today. Good luck this weekend at Indy.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.